It's U of L Today on 93.9 The Ville. Here's your host, Mark Hebert.
And welcome to U of L Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville. Glad you're joining us on this spring day. It's been lovely. And we've got a couple of guests on the show today that I think you'll be interested in for the next half hour. So hope you'll stick around, maybe learn something. So coming up on the program today, autism strikes 1 in 68 children in the United States, and it is Autism Awareness Month. And for the next 3 weeks, we'll have someone on the show talking about autism and what U of L is doing in that field. This week, we'll chat with someone from the Autism Training Center about an effort to make Louisville businesses more autism-friendly. We'll also chat about your eating habits, bad or good, and how they could be impacted by mindfulness, and I'll find out exactly what mindfulness is. We'll ask for that description on this program. But first, the University of Louisville has been named a military-friendly school for 7 years in a row, and each year U of L hosts someone from the Army's top brass as a War College Fellow. Colonel Archie Herndon has been that guy this school year. He's essentially a student at the University of Louisville, learning how to be a better leader in the Army. And Colonel Herndon, welcome back. Good to see you again.
Oh, it's great to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you again, Mark.
Sure. So you're dressed in your blues here and sitting in the radio studio. Do you walk across campus like that?
Very seldom. Ironically, I spend most of my time in what we call Carlisle casual, which is basically a button-down shirt and some slacks. But every once in a while, I do put on my uniform and walk across campus. So.
All right. But you try and fit in with you're a non-traditional student, obviously, but you try and fit in with the student body, right?
I absolutely try.
Okay. All right. So what have you learned? What have you learned at U of L? You've been here since, last July?
I have. I've learned a great deal. The interaction with the students has provided me so much insight in regards to, frankly, how they think. It's funny to see the generation and how intelligent they are and how much they can absorb information and things like that. So it's been a great year. It really has been. The faculty, excellent. And ironically, I'm going to leave here with a new appreciation for research.
Okay.
Which will actually serve me very well in my next assignment. So looking forward to passing the baton off to my replacement, who's coming out of Fort Knox, great officer, and we'll see how things go.
I guess we should describe to folks, what is a War College Fellow? We have one each year at U of L, but what is that?
Well, the fellowship program is part of our Senior Service College program, and every year the Army selects about 350 officers to attend basically an Army university where most of us actually obtain a master's degree in some discipline. Most of us go to Pennsylvania at Carlisle Barracks and do 1 year at Carlisle. And then about 80 of us get the opportunity to attend 40 universities across the United States to participate in the same type of program, but just with college kids.
All right. So you walking out of here with a master's in something?
No, that's the one thing about doing a fellowship is to qualify, you already have to have a master's.
Okay, gotcha.
So I came in with a master's. But I am walking out with a lot of great experience. Having a master's provided me the opportunity to sit there and look at classes that weren't in any one specific discipline. So I had a little bit more flexibility than the officers that are up at Carlisle doing the same thing.
All right, we're talking to Colonel Archie Herndon, who's the War College Fellow at the University of Louisville this school year and getting ready to leave here in a couple of, next month, May?
May, yeah.
Getting out of here. What are some of the classes you took, and what did you take out of each one of those classes? What did you learn that could help you in your military career?
Well, the first semester I actually took a leadership course. I took a talent acquisition course.
What's talent acquisition?
It's
hiring and firing.
Yeah, absolutely. And development of that talent that you hire, which kind of I took that class because it actually appeals to the research that I'm doing for the Army. So it was a great opportunity for me to sit there and see how the corporate America does that. The leadership course that I took was actually tied with the Southern Police Institute, and I got to see how our police actually handle leadership and the challenges they face both in the community and then within their own department. So that was a great opportunity. And then I took a political science course, and an international relations political science course. And it was a seminar. There were 7 of us, and there was no hiding. So it was a great interaction with not only the students, but also Dr. Payne and that program. The second semester, I'm taking a public administration course. I'm taking a research course on how to do research. Truth be told, I wish I had taken that course the first semester because it would have really empowered me to do my paper a lot faster than when I've done it. And then I'm taking an organizational behavior and development course. So, a lot of different courses in different colleges here at the University of Louisville, and I'm taking something away from each one of them.
Well, we're a research university at the University of Louisville, so what did you learn about research? You said that you learned some stuff about research and you really liked it.
Well, I learned the importance of quantitative and qualitative research and how to do each one of them. So the position I'm moving to in the Army next year is to assume command of a logistics brigade that supports the Middle East. And a lot of the ways that we do things from a logistics perspective requires us to do analysis of how well we're supporting the force. So the information and the lessons I learned here, they're going to serve me well here in the next 3 months or so. So
the logistics brigade, you're going to be in charge of it. What do they do? I mean, what's their on the ground job in terms of supporting our troops in the Middle East?
Well, they're part of the Defense Logistics Agency, which is a joint organization that provides support to Navy, Army, Marines.
Talking with Colonel Archie Herndon, who's the War College Fellow at UofL this year. Have you run into other veterans on campus? We say we're a military-friendly school, and at one time I think we had 600 or 700 Army veterans that were using the GI Bill, to go to college. Have you run into any of those guys and women on campus?
Absolutely. I've actually taken a couple classes with veterans. So there are about 900 actually here at the University of Louisville.
So the number's gone up.
When you say that it's a military-friendly campus, it absolutely is a military-friendly campus. So I have run into them. It's been a great experience because for the veterans, they still have a unique pride in their service to our nation. And then there's a large population of officers that are currently still in, and NCOs and warrant officers that are still in the military that are taking classes both here and at their satellite campuses. So, and it's fun because we speak a common speak when we get around each other. But it's also fun to sit there and watch them and what they bring to the classes. So.
Now, I don't know your politics, but Louisville, I think, is generally perceived as being a very liberal. Well, a lot of higher education institutions are as being these bastions of liberal thinking. We're in primarily a liberal city here in the city of Louisville. So, you as a military guy, did you run into any of that where people gave you the cold shoulder or looked at you funny and said, "Oh, there's a military guy. I don't think we should be funding our military," and have an anti-military stance? Or did you pretty much run into everybody's pretty supportive no matter where they fell in the political spectrum?
Absolutely complete support. It was fun because I can't say that we didn't have some great discussions, but there was always an appreciation for service, regardless of the politics involved in the discussion. So, and there were legitimate questions, and they're fair questions. When you sit there and talk about the military and the funding that goes into the military, it's perfectly okay to ask, why are we funding so much? Is that the right answer? Those are great discussions and needed discussions to have. So
you had some good interactions with some of the students, it sounds like,
oh, yeah.
In terms of political discussions and military discussions.
I did, very much so. And again, it's great to sit there and actually be in a place where you can actually debate things. It's fun.
So you're out of the bubble.
I am.
You're out of the Pentagon bubble, and sometimes at the University of Louisville, we're in our own bubble. So maybe you've entered a little bit different one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because one of the discussions we had, we were talking about the size of the military and do we need that size military? And when they looked over at me, because it happened to be one of the few days I was in uniform, they looked at me and said, "Hey, is this the right size?" I said, "I don't know. What's the threat?" And then I said, that's the most complicated question that we have when we're talking about what the right size of the military is and what's the threat. And until we define that, it's going to be problematic, I think, for us to sit there and say, hey, this is the right size. But again, great discussion.
Could you see yourself coming back and teaching someday after this college experience?
Oh, geez. I would love to say yes because I completely and thoroughly enjoyed my time here at UofL. But frankly, at times I think all these kids are a lot smarter than I'll ever be. So I don't know that I can say that. I spent most days sitting there and actually learning from them. So
well, that's great. So you had a good experience.
I had a great experience.
Good to hear you. Well, best of luck being the supply sergeant for the Middle East coming up. Again, what's your command going to be?
It's DLA Central.
GLA Central.
DLA
Central, which means
Defense Logistics Agency Central.
Of course it does. The military has so many of these acronyms, you just can't keep track of them. Colonel Archie Herndon, it's been a pleasure meeting you, and good talking to you. April is Autism Awareness Month, and depending on whose statistics you believe, either 1 in 45 or 1 in 68 Americans is on the autism scale. UofL has a number of programs related to autism, and one of them is the Kentucky Autism Training Center in the College of Education and Human Development. Heidi Cooley-Cook is the Family Field Training Coordinator, got a big title at the center.
Yes.
And she's here with Deborah Martin, the Executive Director of FEET, and she will explain what FEET is in just a moment. They're going to talk about an initiative to train businesses and their employees to be more autism friendly. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Good to see you. All right, so Deborah Martin, what does FEAT stand for? F-E-A-T. What is that?
Yes, it is Families for Effective Autism Treatment. We are a parent support group, a very large parent support group here in Louisville, been around since 1999.
Okay, and Heidi Cooley-Cook, what is the Family Field Training Coordinator for the Autism Training Center? What do you do?
Sure. So at the Kentucky Autism Training Center, we have a statewide initiative for supporting individuals and families affected by autism. That includes work in the schools and work in the community, and also supporting support groups all throughout the state.
Okay, and it's Autism Awareness Month in
Yes,
April,
sir.
correct? Okay, so what have you got going on? I mean, you've got this special initiative that the two of you are working on. Tell us about it.
Sure. So myself, Deborah Morton with Feet of Louisville, Amber Badgett with Meaningful Day Services, and Molly Dubuque, who's also with the University of Louisville Autism Center. We partnered about 1.5 years ago to work together to fill a gap. We found that families oftentimes were engaging in their community, but only for therapeutic services. And we know that we like to do lots of other things besides just go to therapy services. So we started talking, and I'll let Deborah take over from there on what our initiative kind of came to fruition to be.
Okay.
And looking at the gaps that exist, we try to see what can we do for families. We feel like we have the thumb on the pulse of the community to see what needs they may have for their kids, for their young adults who have autism. One of the biggest things that we found by talking with a group of 40-plus providers in a group called the Autism Friendly Community was that families often have time just getting out of the house and integrating their lives into the community. We think that these citizens have just as much right to involve themselves in every bit of the infrastructure you find in our community in Louisville, southern Indiana, as everyone else does. So from that, we decided that we needed to start at the foundation and just make businesses more aware of what autism is so that families feel like they can actually leave the house, go get a haircut, go out to eat.
Well, what are the specific problems that parents face when they've got an autistic kid? They want to go out to eat. They want to go out to Kohl's and go shopping.
Sure.
What do they face? What are the obstacles that they face?
Well, autism spectrum disorder, it's a developmental disorder, developmental disability, and it affects an individual's communication, their social interaction skills, and also sometimes they might have restricted or repetitive behaviors. So an individual might have a difficult time with some of the sensory things that they experience whenever they go into Kohl's. If there's lots of people, or the music's really loud, or the fluorescent lighting, those all could be things that could make an individual with autism have a difficult time in that environment. Other times, it's just that they might need a little bit of extra support in waiting in line. So to go to Kentucky Kingdom and wait for 30 minutes to ride the Twisted Sisters or whatever it's called now might be too long of a time to wait for some individuals. So working with different places to have modifications so that individuals can have a more positive experience is what the initiative is all about.
So Deborah Morton, again from FEED, what are some of the things that you're now doing to educate businesses and their employees on how to deal with these families that walk into their establishments?
Well, together through this Autism Friendly Business Initiative, we have created a 10-minute video online training that businesses can go to autismfriendlybusiness.com. They can sign up their business, tell us how many employees they have, and immediately have access to this 10-minute video. We wanted it to be simple for them. We don't want it to be hard. We don't want them to be therapists. We just want them to watch a video about what autism is, what you can do, or what you might not want to do if you encounter people who may be on the spectrum.
Once again, Heidi Cooley-Cook is from the Autism Training Center at the University of Louisville, and she's the Family Field Training Coordinator. And Deborah Morton is the Executive Director of FEET, and we're talking about autism, an idea that they've basically come up with to train businesses and employees how to deal with autistic kids and their families, correct?
Correct.
And that's what it boils down to. How many businesses have signed up so far, or how many have taken this training?
We have got over 38 currently who have signed up, and now it's just a matter of getting the word out. I mean, we are a small group. There's a small group of us working on this. We can't afford to put a billboard up, to run a commercial, so it's word of mouth. I mean, we feel like it's grassroots, but it's letting one business know at a time, but we really feel like it's going to change the face of our community.
Heidi, what's in the video? Let's suppose I don't own a business, so I'm not going to go watch your video, but what's in it? What's it going to tell me as an employee or a business person?
Sure. So within the 10-minute video, it walks you through what is autism and then what are some of the characteristics that you might see. An individual with autism doesn't have any outward appearance differences that might indicate to you that that person is on the autism spectrum. So you might not have an indication until they start to communicate with you, or you might see some behaviors. So an individual that walks into Kohl's, as you mentioned before, and is affected by the loud music, you might see them put their hands over their ears, or they might pace, or they might look to their caregiver for some reprieve of leaving that environment to a more quiet environment. So within the video, it shows some examples. We had a fantastic actor, Cody Clark, who is a graduate of University of Louisville.
He's going to be on my program here in a week or so.
That's right, that's right. So Cody Clark did a fantastic job. We also had a lady named Shannon, who's with Meaningful Day Services, that assisted us. And then actually Deborah and Amber and Molly are also in the videos as well. And so through the videos, we show individuals some of the characteristics that they might see, and then how to interact, and also some non-examples, so some ways of interactions that you might want to avoid.
What advice would you give to people who are out in a restaurant and see a child act up or act out or put the hands over the ears or whatever? Sure. What advice would you give to them other than perhaps saying, look, just realize that they've got a disability and just kind of ignore them? What would you tell people to do?
I think that it's really important to remember that autism affects 1 in 68.
And what's going on at the Kentucky Autism Training Center? You've got this training video for businesses and employees. What else is UofL doing?
So University of Louisville also has a University of Louisville Autism Center, which is an outpatient therapeutic center. They have occupational therapy, speech therapy, psychology, neurology, developmental pediatrics,
whole list of services, in other words.
Psychiatry. Yeah, it's a fantastic place for outpatient clinical services. And we just had a fantastic program. One of our other family field training coordinators received a grant through VSA and did a hip hop program for middle and high school age students to learn some dance moves. So whenever they go to prom, they are ready. And so that just wrapped up a few weeks ago.
Okay, well, let's try and wrap this up. If someone wants to get a hold of you and get a hold of that training video, or a business wants to sign up for this training, how do they do it?
They can do it by going to www.autismfriendlybusiness.com, or they can email us at afbi@feetoflouisville.org with questions.
AFBI
at feet of
F-E-A-T.
F-E-A-T of Louisville.org.
Okay, and if they wanted to contact you, Heidi, at UofL, how would they track you down?
Sure. If you go to our website, kyautism.org, that'll take you directly to Kentucky Autism Training Center. You could also reach me via email at hacool01@louisville.edu.
Okay, ladies, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Autism Awareness Month. I hope some folks will get signed up for this. Sounds like you've already got, 38 businesses already?
Perfect.
Well, good job. Thank you very much. Your diet stinks, but you can change it. And your health with a little mindfulness training. Sherry Levinson is an assistant professor in psychology and director of the Eating Anxiety Disorder Lab, who, along with a grad assistant in psychology, Irina Vanjula, is here to talk about mindfulness and diets. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Hi.
Does your diet
Good to be
stink?
here.
Does your diet stink?
It's okay. We're working on it.
Okay. But you're with the Eating Disorder Clinic, Sherry, right?
Yes, I am. The Eating Anxiety Treatment Clinic over in the Department of Psychology.
Okay. Why don't you describe what that is for folks who don't know what that is?
Sure.
What do you do?
So I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Psychology, and in August, I opened a eating disorder research lab. So we have lots of research going on where we are developing new treatments for individuals who have eating disorders. We're also working just in general on research trying to improve healthy eating. We also have started several clinical opportunities for people who have eating disorders. So as of recently, for example, we have a recovery support group for people with eating disorders there as well. So we've got a lot going on, basically research, clinical work, and training having to do with eating disorders.
All right. And Irina Vanjula, how do you fit into this equation?
So I'm one of the students in Dr. Levinson's lab, and I participate in all of the research and clinical work that she's just described. And I also have my own little niche of interest in particularly mindfulness-related treatments for eating disorders.
And that's what we're going to talk about today. What is mindfulness? Tell me what it is. Describe it to someone who has no idea what mindfulness is. What would you tell them?
Mindfulness is about paying attention, being in the present, and doing so non-judgmentally. So it's not so much about meditating or sitting, not necessarily relaxing or sitting and chanting. It's really not just about the practice, but it's about being and how you are perceiving the world. And you can do anything mindfully. You can eat mindfully, exercise mindfully. You can take a shower mindfully. So it's more of an approach that you take to your everyday experiences.
Okay. And so how does that fit in with eating disorders and eating right or eating poorly?
So, well, we just did a study. We just had a paper come out where we looked at how mindfulness impacted several different eating disorder and healthy eating outcomes across time. And there's actually lots of different parts of mindfulness. So, for example, observing is a type of mindfulness where you're really good at paying attention to what's going on in your environment, right? Another aspect of mindfulness is called non-reactivity. And what non-reactivity is it's when you're experiencing an emotion, whether that's a negative or a positive emotion, you're really good at just noticing that emotion and not responding strongly to the emotion. So what we did was we looked at how these different parts of mindfulness would impact healthy eating across time. And what we found was that people who were very non-reactive to their emotions were actually better at eating well. So they weren't eating in response to their emotions. They weren't overeating. They were really good at having balanced eating, basically. So that means that if we can help people become more mindful about their emotions and respond just in a non-reactive way, that can be helpful for healthy eating. And we also know that mindfulness in general can contribute to healthy eating. And so that's what Irina has been working now on, doing some clinical work and testing how that is going to impact eating.
Okay, we're talking with Sherry Levinson. That was her just talking there. She's an assistant professor in psychology and director of the Eating Anxiety Disorder Lab. She's here along with Irina Vanjula, who's a graduate student in psychology. So I guess, Irina, the obvious question here is, from what Sherry just described, we're talking about the guy like me who is watching a football game with my favorite team is playing, and I'm nervous as heck, and so I start gobbling the nachos. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, that would be a definition of what we would maybe call mindless eating.
Well, I would too, and I admit it. I do some mindless eating, okay? But is that an example of what we're talking about here?
Yes, pretty much. So we've all had an experience where we would sit down with a bowl of chips or popcorn, and then we would not even notice how we ate it. So we weren't paying attention to the experience of eating it because we were distracted by something else. So back to the definition of mindfulness, we weren't present with our food. Mm-hmm. And so that often leads to overeating, because if we don't pay attention, we're going to eat that bowl of popcorn and then maybe later be like, well, maybe I shouldn't have eaten that much.
So what are some of the emotions that play a role and have an impact on my eating habits?
So the whole range of emotions, really. So we know that if you feel, for example, really bored, that might be an emotion that you're experiencing. You just go to the cupboard, you kind of eat, and you're just kind of mindlessly going through eating, right? Or maybe you're feeling really upset. Okay, well, let me get this bowl of ice cream, and instead of focusing on being upset, I'm just going to eat the entire carton of ice cream, right? So lots of emotions, and how we pay attention to our emotions can very easily lead to overeating in many instances.
So mindful eating would mean what? What would I do when I went for that bowl of ice cream?
So
At least know that I'm going to eat ice cream because
Right.
I'm ticked off or something?
So mindful eating would be really paying attention to that ice cream as you're eating it. So you're going to pay attention to the texture of the ice cream, the way the ice cream smells, the way the ice cream tastes, the way it feels in your mouth. Does it feel really, really cold? You're going to pay attention to all of the sensations and what's happening as you're eating. So you're really, in a way, you're slowing your eating down, and you're paying attention to things that you normally wouldn't pay attention to at all.
But Irina, that's a sensory thing, isn't it?
Yeah, essentially. And what people in mindful eating groups usually find is if they slow down and eat at a slower pace and pay attention to their food, they find that their sensations to the food decline over time. And so if they have a first bite of the food that's like really flavorful and it's like very full of flavor, and then a second bite is a little less, and a third is a little less. And so what mindful eating does, it may help you get satisfied your craving with a lot smaller amount of food that you would typically eat.
Okay. Well, I've got some dietary restrictions, and one of the things I can eat is sugar. So candy corn has become my go-to just if I'm bored or if I'm ticked off or nervous or whatever. Eating candy corn, like a handful of it. So that's mindless eating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Although I'm mindful about it, I know what I'm doing. I'm digging in the candy corn,
So the way we usually start off with mindful eating workshops, or when we're teaching somebody mindful skills, is we start with what's called the raisin exercise. And what we do in the raisin exercise is we have people eat one raisin very, very slowly. And we start off by having the person just look at the raisin, right? So noticing how the light falls on the raisin, what the texture of the raisin looks like, and then we move on to actually eating the raisin very, very slowly. And this can be a really eye-opening experience for people, because most of the time you're not thinking about slowly, mindfully eating a raisin, right? You're just throwing that raisin in your mouth. You're just trying to get through your meal and go on with your day, right? So what we're doing by doing this raisin exercise, as they call it, is teaching people to slow down and to notice everything that's happening as they eat. There's a whole lot that goes into eating, right? Now, when you're talking about the candy corns, for instance, you're mindful that you're getting those candy corns, but my guess is if you sat down and very slowly ate that candy corn, noticing everything about what it looks like,
I would eat
and
less
tastes,
of them because I know what's in them. And if someone wants to get a hold of the two of you or one of you to talk about this, how do they do that?
So they can go to our website that's off of the Department of Psychology.
So go to the psychology website, just search, go to the UofL main page, search psychology, and they should be able to get the, what's it called, the eating
The
anxiety.
Eat Lab.
What's it called?
The Eat Lab.
The Eat Lab.
Yeah.
Oh, eating anxiety disorder. Yeah, lab.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And Irina is running a research study right now where she's teaching people these skills. And it's open to staff, students across UofL, anybody who just really wants to work on mindful eating. And that's something that if people are interested in, they can contact us
Okay.
about.
And also, we partnered with Health Promotion Office on campus to offer this workshop. So they have a lot of information on that workshop. We will be, we're actually just started, so we're about halfway through the current one. It's a 4-week workshop, and then we're going to be repeating that in the summer and fall.
Okay.
So.
All right, very good. Irina Vanjula, Sherry Levison, appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for listening, and go Cards.